So in today's class we are going to learn something called as Lensmaker's formula. So this Lensmaker's formula relates the focal length of the lens to the refractive index of the lens material and the radii of curvature of the two surfaces of the lens. So we are going to get a relation between f, r1, r2, mu1 and mu2. Okay, or n1 and n2. We are going to get a relation between the refractive indices of the material of the lens and the surrounding, the radius of curvature of the two surfaces of the lens and the focal length of that particular lens. So why this formula is called as the Lensmaker's formula is because manufacturers use this formula to design the lenses of required focal length. Okay, that is why it is called as the Lensmaker's formula. So before starting this derivation, we need to know all the sign conventions that we have learned in the previous class. So here also we need to make some assumptions before starting the Lensmaker's formula. The first assumption is that the lens used is very thin. The lens which we are going to use is very thin lens. Okay, so that the distances which are measured from the surfaces of the lens, for example, the image formed is over here, optical center is over here, and this is, let's say, A and this point is B. So distance BI can be approximated as equal to distance OI because it is a very thin lens and the thickness of the lens is considered very small. So the distances measured from its surfaces may be taken equal to the ones measured from the optical center. Okay, so B and O is considered very close to each other. That is the first assumption. The second assumption is that the object is a point object placed on the principal axis. So this is going to be a point object from where the ray will be considered. Okay. The third is aperture of the lens is very small. The diameter of the circular surface, okay, or the curved surface of the lens is very small. And the fourth assumption is that all the rays are paraaxial. Okay, that means the angle made by the incident ray or the refracted ray with the principal axis, these angles or the angles made, it is angle of incidence or the angle of refraction that is made at normal will be very small. That is angle of incidence, angle of refraction, and these angles which are made with the principal axis are considered very small, so that sine of those angle or tan of those angle is approximately taken as the angle itself. So the fourth point is all the rays are paraaxial. So now let us proceed with the derivation. So I will consider a thin lens of refractive index, let's say n2, placed in a medium of refractive index n1. Now here you can take mu1 and mu2 also, doesn't matter. Okay, so for a change let us take n1 and n2. So in this derivation we are going to have three figures. Okay, all three figures are important and have to be drawn in the answers, okay, to get full marks. So I will be considering a thin lens over here. So let us consider that this is a thin lens. Okay, let me draw a principal axis. Okay, so the refractive index of the lens is n2 and the refractive index of the surrounding is n1. This lens is placed in a medium and having a refractive index of n1. That is what is said. Okay, let us name this points over here. So let us say that this point over here is B, this point over here is D. Okay, if I draw an aperture over here, let us name this point as A and this point as C. Okay, so let these points B and D be the poles of the two spherical surfaces. Let C1 and C2 be the center of curvature. So let me mark. So let us say that this surface has a center of curvature on this side, that is C1, let us consider, and this surface has a center of curvature on the other side, it is over here, that is C2. So R1 and R2 is going to be the radii of curvatures. This is going to be R1 from here to here, and this is going to be R2 from here to here. So this is the radius of curvature of the two spherical surfaces, that is ABC and ABC respectively. Okay. So let me keep an object at point O over here. Let's say that this is the object I have placed over here, O. Okay. So let me draw an incident ray. The ray will be incident on the lens, something like this. Okay. And this ray would be forming an image on the other side like this. Okay. So for instant, let us remove this C1 and C2 from here, because we will be changing the meaning otherwise, because if the object is placed at infinity, the image should be formed at focus. So this was just to show what is R1, R2, C1, C2. So in this figure you need not draw R1, R2, C1, C2. In the later on figures we have to draw it. So in the first figure you should be drawing a thin lens, a thin biconvex lens. Mark the spherical surfaces ABC and ADC. Place an object O on the principal axis on the left hand side. Mark the incident ray from O to A. Okay, or rather let's name this point as N1. Okay, at this point it will get refracted to get an image I. Okay, so this is going to be your refracted ray. So this is going to be your object distance U, and this is going to be your image distance till optical center. Okay, and this is going to be your image distance till here, that is V, since the image formed is over here. So this is going to be your first figure. Okay, so now we are going to learn this process step by step. Okay, so this is the entire process. Object is placed on this side of the lens. Okay, incident ray goes like this, it gets refracted and the image is formed. This is the entire process. But what exactly happens when this incident ray would fall on the first surface ABC? What is going to happen inside the lens over here, and then when it comes out as an emergent ray from the second surface ADC, how it is going to come out? Okay, so this process in steps we are going to see. So first I will be considering the first refracting surface, that is ABC, and let us see what exactly happens at the first spherical surface there. Okay, so let me draw the first spherical surface ABC separately. So let us consider the first spherical surface, that is A, B and C. Let me draw the principal axes. So this point is going to be B. So I'll consider a point object over here, O. Okay, so this is my object O, which is placed on the principal axis. Let me draw the incident ray from O to the spherical surface now. So this is going to be my incident ray. So let me draw a normal now, because along the normal this ray is going to get refracted. So for that reason I will require the center of curvature. So let us say that the center of curvature is lying over here. So the radius to this spherical surface is going to be the normal. So this is my normal now. So let us say that this is the normal. So let us say that the surrounding has a refractive index we have considered as N1, and the lens has a refractive index of N2, which is denser. So N2 is denser medium. This is going to be an rarer medium, because object is kept in a rarer medium. It is now going into the lens. Okay, so lens is obviously going to be a glass, so it is going to be a denser medium. So since the ray of light is going from rarer to denser medium, it is going to bend towards the normal, and it would form an image something like this. something like this, because it is bending towards the normal. So angle of incidence over here should be greater than the angle of refraction. So this is the case. This image over here will be formed only when the second surface is not present. So assuming that the second surface is not present over here, let us assume that the image is formed over here. Let's say that image is I1. Now this is not the final image, because this ray is going to encounter the second surface ADC. There will be one more refraction that is going to happen, and then finally the emergent ray would come and form the final image I. Okay, so till now we are not getting the final image. This image I1 that we have got is not the final image. Okay, it is just the image which is formed due to this first refracting surface, that is ABC, which is not the final image. Okay, since the second refracting spherical surface is missing over here, okay, this will be the direct image that we have assumed that would be formed if the second surface ADC is missing. The ray that has started from O is incident on the first surface ABC. It is refracted towards the normal, okay, at this surface, and if the second surface ADC was not present over here, the ray would have met the principal axis at I and the image would be formed. So we can treat I1 as the real image formed by the first spherical surface ABC in the refractive index N2. Okay, so this can be considered as the image in the refractive index N2 due to first spherical surface ABC if the second spherical surface was not present. Okay, so let us mark the remaining things. Let us mark the radius of curvature, the first radius of curvature, that is going to be R1 from here to here. Okay, this is angle of incidence. Let us say I1 because there will be two surfaces. Okay, this is the first angle of refraction, so I will put R1 over here. Okay, this is C1, I1, N1, N2, object O and the surface ABC. Okay, so now let us write down the expression for the refraction at the spherical surface which we have derived in the previous class. Okay, for this particular surface ABC over here, that is the relation between object distance, image distance and the radius of curvature in terms of the refractive indices mu1 and mu2 in that case. Okay, so the same expression for this condition I am going to write down. The first expression which we have derived, where the object is placed in the rarer medium and the image was formed in the denser medium. So according to that formula, I would get the refractive index of the second medium divided by the object distance. So let us say this is not the final object distance. So let us say that the object distance here is V dash. Image distance over here, let us say, is U, because image is our final image. This is the, object distance is U because the object is the only object we have. So let it be U. This image which is formed over here is not the final image. So we have considered it as V dash. The final image distance we will consider as V. Okay. So N2 upon V dash, that is image distance, minus N1 upon object distance, that is U, will be equal to N2 minus N1 upon the radius of curvature, that is R1. So for the refraction at the spherical surface ABC, we can write this relation between object distance, image distance V dash and the radius of curvature, that is R1. So this is for the first refracting surface ABC. Now if I consider the second refracting surface, that is ADC, what is going to happen? So let us draw the ray diagram now for the second refracting surface. So let me name this equation as 1. Okay. So now let us see the second refracting surface. So let me draw the second refracting surface ADC. This is ADC. Let us draw the principal axis over here. Let's see, this is the principal axis we have. Okay. So we saw that this ray would come from the first refracting surface. This ray would be coming, that is N1. This was named as N1, right? In the previous figure, here we had named it as N1, this point. So I'm naming it as N1. So N1 I1 would be coming out from this side, okay, and it is going to encounter this second surface, correct? So as this N1I is proceeding this side. So N1I is proceeding this side. If this second surface was not present over here, it would go straight away and form its image I1. But unfortunately, there is second surface over here, that is ADC. So what would happen over here? There will be one more refraction that is taking place. Now understand this. This is N1 over here. This point over here is N2. This point over here is N2. So if this surface was not present, this N1 would straight away go and form this image over here I1. But now we have a second surface, that is ADC, which is placed in between, okay, which is going to have a normal over here. So let us draw this normal from the second center of curvature, that is C2. So let us say that this is the normal at this point, right angle, okay. So at this surface it is going to bend, okay. So now this side became N2, the denser medium, and this is outer medium, that is N1. So this is a rarer medium. So ray of light is now entering from denser medium to rarer medium. So it is going to bend away from normal, okay. So this ray is going to bend away from normal, somewhat like this. So this is going to bend like this, so that angle of incidence, the second angle of incidence over here, I2, should be smaller than angle of refraction, that is R2. Refraction angle should be more because it is going from denser to rarer medium. So the ray should be bending away from normal, okay. And here the final image will be formed, that is I. This is going to be the final image over here, okay. Let us do the remaining marking now. So this distance from here to here is going to be R2. It is the second radius of curvature. This distance from here to here is going to be the final image now. So this is going to be the final image over here, okay. So we see here that the ray suffers another refraction at the surface ADC, okay. It is bending away from the normal now from N2, okay. The emergent ray meets the principal axis at point I, which is the final image of O, formed by the lens, by the total lens, okay. So for the second refraction we see over here that this I1 will act as a virtual object. This is going to act as a virtual object because this was the image formed by the first refracting surface. This was actually the image formed by the first refracting surface, which is going to act like an object for this second refracting surface, okay. The image which is formed by the first refracting surface over here is going to act like a virtual object for the second refracting surface, and then the second refracting surface is going to take this object I1 and form the final image, that is I, okay. So therefore now if we want to write down the same relation which we have written in the first case, for the second case, that is the relation between object distance, image distance and the radius of curvature, how will we write it? So that is going to be the second formula which we had noted down in note. The object is placed in the denser medium and the image is formed in the rarer medium. So what you have to do over here is you have to just exchange N1 and N2. Just change N1 to N2 and N2 to N1 and you will get the formula over here. So what is going to be the formula? It is going to be N1 upon the image distance. So what is the image distance? Image distance is V minus N2 upon the object distance. So object distance is what over here? Di1. So we had taken Di1 as V dash, if you remember. If you remember in the previous figure, we had taken Bi1 as V dash. So Bi1 and Di1 can be taken same because it is a thin lens. As I had told you, the assumption B and D will be very close to each other because we have considered a thin lens. So Bi1, that is the distance from here to here, Bi1, which we had considered as V dash, can be considered same as Bi1, that is this distance. Will be considered same as Di1. okay, which will be again V dash. Okay, so let us write that down as V dash. So that is going to be my object distance. I hope you all are understanding why I'm taking V dash as object distance, because this image which is formed by the first surface, the image which is formed by the first surface, that is I1, is going to behave like a virtual object for the second surface, and then the final image I will be formed. So image distance becomes di and the object distance becomes di1, that is V dash. So this is going to be equal to n1 minus n2 upon radius of curvature, that is r2. Okay, just exchange your n1 and n2 in this formula, that's it. Okay, so let us name this formula as 2. Okay, so I get this 2 formula. So I get the 2 formula, number 1 and number 2. In the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add equation 1 and equation 2. Okay, so what I will do is adding equation 1 and equation 2. So what will I get over here? If you see, n2 V dash, n2 upon V dash, that is this term, okay, and minus n2 upon V dash. One is positive, one is negative. Magnitude is same, so they will get cancelled. Okay, and what will remain is n1 upon V minus n1 upon U, okay, is going to be equal to, now when I add the right hand side, listen to this carefully, okay, when I add the right hand side, if you see, here it is n2 minus n1 and here it is n1 minus n2. So what I will do over here is, I will pull out this negative sign outside and I will write it as n2 minus n1, and I will pull n2 minus n1 outside. So there will be a negative sign left over here. So what will remain in the bracket is 1 upon r1, this will remain as it is, minus 1 upon r2. Why this minus sign came? Because I exchanged this term, n2 minus n1 I did over here. Simple mathematics. n1 minus n2 was there, I made it n2 minus n1, so there was one negative sign which is left over here. That negative sign I put over here as 1 upon r2 as negative. Okay, so this is what I get over here. Okay, so if I take this n1 common over here, so if I take this n1 common over here and take it down on the other side, what will I get? 1 upon V minus 1 upon U. I take this n1 common outside and take it across down here. So what will I get is n2 minus n1 upon n1 into 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. Okay, so now what I will say over here is, if I assume that the object is placed at infinity, the object is placed at an infinite distance, then the image will be formed at the focus, that is the second principal focus. Okay, so if the object is placed at infinity, I'm doing an assumption over here, if the object is placed at infinity, that is object distance is infinite, okay, then image will be formed at focus. Okay, that is V is going to be equal to, image distance will be nothing but the focal length, that is f. So substituting this over here, 1 upon f, see 1 upon V will be replaced by f, minus 1 upon infinity will become 0. This entire term will go to 0 because you will be putting 1 upon infinity, and 1 upon infinity is as good as dividing 1 into infinite parts, that will be approximately equal to 0. So this term will go, so it will be equal to, so I'll just distribute this n1 to both the terms. Okay, so this will be n2 upon n1 minus n1 upon n1 will be 1, okay, into 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. So this formula is your lens maker's formula, which gives you the relation between the focal length, the two radii of curvature, and the refractive indices. This is going to be your lens maker's formula. So if you note over here these two formulae, that is this and this. If you see the left hand side of the two, if you see the right hand side is exactly equal. The two right hand sides are exactly equal. If I just simplify this, I get this. So they are equal. So if you look at the two left hand side, I can easily compare the two left hand sides. Okay, so I can say that 1 upon V minus 1 upon U is equal to 1 upon F, and this becomes nothing but a thin lens formula. It's going to become a thin lens formula. This is similar to the mirror formula which we have. 1 upon V plus 1 upon U is equal to 1 upon F. Similarly, we have thin lens formula, that is 1 upon V minus 1 upon U is equal to 1 upon F, which gives us the relationship between the object distance, image distance, and the focal length of the thin lens. Okay. Point number 2 is, supposing this lens is placed in air. That means N1 is equal to 1, and let's say N2 is equal to N, that is the refractive index of the glass, or the refractive index of the lens is N. Then what will be the formula becoming? So 1 upon F will be equal to N upon 1, so N minus 1 into 1 upon R1 minus 1 upon R2. That is, if the lens is placed in air, so refractive index of the surrounding becomes 1, and the refractive index of the glass, if we consider as N, then the formula will be 1 upon F is equal to N minus 1 into 1 minus R1 minus 1 upon R1 minus 1 upon R2. This is going to be your formula. Okay, so now let us look at the linear magnification produced by the lens. So similar to the mirror, linear magnification is nothing but the ratio of size of the image formed by the lens to the size of object. Okay, that is H dash upon H. So magnification M is given by H dash upon H, where H dash is nothing but size of image and H is nothing but size of object. So let us see individually for a convex lens and a concave lens what is going to be the magnification. So first let us see magnification for convex lens. So to understand this, let us draw a simple ray diagram for a lens, for a convex lens. So let me draw a convex lens over here. Okay, this we had learned in the lower classes how to draw the ray diagram for a lens. So if I consider an object over here in front of a lens, okay, one ray goes straight parallel to the principal axis, gets refracted and passes through the focus. It's going to be one ray, and the second ray I will directly pass through the principal, the optical center. Okay, so this is my second ray over here. So the image will be formed over here. This is going to be my image formed. So let us name it. Let us say this is AB, this is A dash, B dash. This point is optical center, that is O. Okay, and there is one more ray, let us consider. This is the principal axis, along the principal axis. Okay, so this is my ray diagram for a convex lens. So if you consider the two triangles, triangle AOB and triangle A dash OB dash, that is this triangle, and on the other side this triangle, you will see that the two triangles are similar because obviously these are vertically opposite angles. Over here vertically opposite angles, and the two angles are 90 degrees over here. So we can say that the two triangles are similar by AA similarity criteria. These are going to be similar triangles. So from similarity of the triangles, I can write down the ratio of proportional sides. So I can say that A dash B dash upon AB is equal to OB dash upon O, or OA dash upon OA. Correct? So I can say according to the new Cartesian sign convention, A dash B dash is inverted image, a real inverted image. So according to sign convention, it's perpendicular downwards, so negative of H dash will put it. Okay, this length will take as h dash, which is negative. AB is upwards, perpendicular upwards, so let us take it as h, that is height of the object, which is equal to OA dash is the image distance, which will be taken as positive since we are going in the direction of incident ray. So V upon OA is the object distance, which will be taken as negative since we are going opposite to the incident ray. Okay, so if you see this negative sign will get cancelled. So this is nothing but the magnification, h dash upon h will be equal to V upon U. So the magnification over here is going to be h dash upon h, which is going to be V upon U for a convex lens. Now coming to the magnification of concave lens. Magnification of concave lens. Again, we'll draw the simple ray diagram for a concave lens. Okay, let us place a object over here, AB. Let's draw the rays now. So this is a diverging lens, so a ray would be going and getting refracted, and it is going to diverge outside. Okay, so if I produce this behind, it is going to meet at this point. Okay, and if I draw a ray which is passing through the optical center, it would be something like this. This is another ray. Okay, so if you see, the image formed would be over here. So if this is AB, this is going to be A dash, B dash, and this is going to be the optical center O over here. So similarly, here also triangle AOB will be similar to triangle A dash OB dash. These two triangles are going to be similar because O is a common angle, as well as AB, A dash, B dash and AB are parallel to each other. So it's quite obvious that two triangles are similar over here. Plus this is 90. Okay. So from here also we can say that A dash B dash upon AB is equal to B dash O upon BO. So here you will see that both the image as well as object are upwards, perpendicular upwards. So H dash and H is going to be positive. B dash O and BO are both on the left hand side, so they are going to be negative because we are going to measure it in the direction opposite to the incident ray. So it is going to be minus V upon minus U. Minus will get cancelled. So here also the magnification will be equal to H dash upon H, which will be equal to V upon U. So magnification in case of concave lens as well as convex lens is going to be H dash upon H, which will be also equal to V upon U. The next topic we have is the power of a lens. So basically, power of a lens is ability of the lens to converge or diverge a beam of light, or basically it is a bending power of the lens. Okay, how well a lens can converge or diverge a beam of light. Okay, that is the power of a lens. So this power of a lens depends upon the focal length of the lens. Okay, so the power of the lens is also defined as the reciprocal of the focal length. Okay, so we can say that power of the lens is nothing but reciprocal of the focal length of that particular lens, okay, which is measured in meters. Okay, so power can be said as reciprocal of focal length, which is measured in meters. So SI unit of power can be considered as a meter inverse, or it is said to be diopter, okay, which is denoted by capital D. Okay, it is also said as diopter, which is denoted by capital D. So one diopter, we can say that one diopter is a power of a lens whose focal length is 1 meter. If you have a lens whose focal length is 1 meter, the power of that lens is going to be 1 diopter. So now by convention we consider that the converging lens or a convex lens has a positive power, and a diverging lens would have a negative power. Okay, so by convention, a converging lens is going to have a positive power and a diverging lens is going to have a negative power. It is going to have a negative power. Okay, so if someone says that an optician prescribes a corrective lens of power plus 2.5 diopter, what does that mean? That means that he has prescribed you a convex lens. Since it is positive, it is going to be a converging lens. Okay, so he has prescribed you a convex lens having a focal length of 1 upon 2.5, because power is nothing but 1 upon focal length. So focal length is going to be 1 upon power. So 1 upon 2.5, that is going to be plus 0.4 meters, okay, or plus 40 centimeter, okay, that much focal length. Okay, so he has prescribed you a convex lens of 40 centimeter focal length. Supposing he has prescribed you a lens having a power of minus 4D, that means he has prescribed you a concave lens or a diverging lens having a focal length of 1 upon 4 diopter. That is nothing but it is going to be around minus 25 centimeter, that is 0.25 meters. Okay, this much of the focal length will be prescribed to you. This is what it means. So now let us look at the proper definition of power of a lens. So according to the definition of power of a lens, it is defined as the tangent of the angle by which it converges or diverges a beam of light falling at a unit distance from the optical center. So if I consider a converging lens, okay, let's see the converging lens only. This is my optical center. If I consider a point which is at a distance of which is at a unit distance from the optical center, so this distance is, let's say, 1. Okay, this distance from here to here, let's say, is h, okay, which is 1. Okay, so if a ray of light falls at this point over here, okay, so if a ray of light falls at this point over here like this, okay, the power of the lens is nothing but the tangent of the angle by which it converges the beam of light. So this beam of light is obviously going to get converged through the focus. This is going to be my focus over here. This is going to be my focus over here, which is going to get converged through the focus. So by how much angle it converges, okay, that we have to see. So supposing I produce this line straight parallel to the principal axis, and let us say that it converges by an angle of delta. It converges by an angle of delta, that it was supposed to go straight, but since it encounters this lens, it gets refracted down here, it gets converged through the focus. So let us consider that it gets converged through an angle of delta. So what is the definition of power of lens? It is the tangent, it is tan of the angle by which it converges. So angle by which it has converged is delta. Okay, when it falls at a unit distance from the optical center, that is it is falling at a distance of h is equal to 1 from the optical center. So supposing this is delta, since these are parallel lines, this is also going to be delta. So if this is delta, tan of delta is going to be opposite side, that is h upon OF, but OF is nothing but the focal length, that is f. And clearly from here, h we have told as 1, it is falling at a unit distance. So what will be tan of delta? Tan of delta will be 1 upon f. And by small angle approximation, tan of delta can be said as delta. Okay, which will be nothing but the power of that lens. So power of the lens can also be defined as the reciprocal of the focal length. This is how we define the power of a lens. Now, from the lens maker's formula, what was the lens maker's formula which we have derived? It is 1 upon f is equal to n minus 1 if the surrounding is air. 1 upon R1 minus 1 upon R2. So from here, can we say that 1 upon f is nothing but power? So we can also say that power is equal to n minus 1 into 1 upon R1 minus 1 upon R2. So lens maker's formula can also be written in this manner in terms of power. Let us look at the next topic, that is lens combination, which is also called as combination of lenses. So in many optical instruments, two or more lenses are used either in contact or with a gap in between them. The purpose of this is basically one, to magnify the image in case you want to magnify the final image. That is the first purpose. The second purpose might be to erect the final image, or the third purpose would be to minimize certain defects or aberrations in the final image. So for this purposes, combination of lenses are used. That means one or two lenses are combined together, placed next to each other, close to each other, or with a gap in between the two, and are used. Okay, so let us find out the expressions regarding this combination of lenses. So here if we see, we have two lenses A and B of respective focal length f1 and f2. Let us consider the focal length of lens A is f1 and the focal length of lens B is f2. Okay, and they are placed very close to each other. Let us consider some point P is a common optical center for both the lenses. Okay, so they are very thin, so their optical centers is assumed to be coinciding with each other, and they are very close to each other. So let us consider point P as a common optical center for both. Okay, the image I1 of the object O, so this image which is formed of the object O by the first lens A, okay, is at a distance of V1. Okay, so this image is actually going to serve as a virtual object for the second lens. Okay, so it is going to behave like an object for the second lens, and then there will be second refraction which is happening, which is going to give us the final image, that is I. So object is placed over here, incident ray would be going. Okay, if the second lens was not present, then an image would be formed, that is I1. Okay, but here the second lens is present, so this image I1 is going to behave like a virtual object for the second lens B. Okay, considering that the object is I1, there will be a final image which is formed I. Okay, at a distance of V from the point P, that is the common optical center which we have considered. So for the first lens, that is lens A, for lens A we can write down the thin lens formula, that is 1 upon the image distance, that is 1 upon V1, because I1 is the image formed for lens A. Okay, so that is going to be the image distance V1 minus 1 upon object distance, so 1 upon U is equal to 1 upon the focal length of A, that is f1. This is going to be your equation 1. For lens B, for the second lens B, let us write down the thin lens formula again. So 1 upon the image distance, so image distance, that is the final image, is I, so image distance is V for the lens B, minus 1 upon object distance. So object distance for the second lens, we have considered object as I1, so it is going to be V1 is equal to 1 upon the focal length for the second lens, that is f2. Okay, so this is going to be the second equation under consideration. In the next step, I am going to add the two equations, so adding equation 1 and 2. Okay, so if you see the left hand side, 1 upon V1 and minus 1 upon V1, the terms are same but equal, but the opposite sign, so they are going to get cancelled. So 1 upon V1 and minus 1 upon V1 is going to get cancelled. What is going to remain over here is 1 upon V minus 1 upon U is equal to 1 upon F1 plus 1 upon F2. Okay, so this is going to be your statement after adding the two terms. Now, if we consider this combination of two lenses as a single lens, if we consider this combination of two lenses as a single lens, wherein the object is placed at O, which is at a distance of U, okay, this ray goes over here, get refracted and forms an image I at a distance of V from here. And let us consider that this lens has a focal length of F. Then how would we write the thin lens formula for this particular lens? It is going to be 1 upon V minus 1 upon u is equal to 1 upon f. So what did I do over here? If I consider that this two combination of these two lenses as a single lens, okay, like in when we considered two cells, the EMF of the cell, we considered the two cells which were connected in series or in parallel as one cell, equivalent cell, okay. Same way, if we consider these two lenses as a single lens, okay, which is having a object distance of u, image distance of v, and a focal length of f, then we can write the thin lens formula for this particular combination as 1 upon v minus 1 upon u is equal to 1 upon f. So if I call this equation as equation 3 and equation 4, and if you compare the two equation 3 and equation 4, what do you see? You will notice that the left hand side of the two equation is exactly same. So we can easily equate the right hand side, and after equating the right hand side, what do we get? We will get 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2. This is going to be your final result. Okay, that is when you combine the two lenses having focal length f1 and f2 together, the final focal length of the combination is going to be equal to 1 upon f will be equal to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2. So the things to note over here is that note number 1. So if we have thin lenses of focal length f1, f2, f3 and so on in contact, then the effective focal length in this case, that is 1 upon f, would be 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2 plus so on. It will go on and on and on, plus 1 upon f3 plus 1 upon f4 and so on. In terms of power, if I want to write this, 1 upon f is nothing but the power p, which will be equal to the power of the lens 1 plus power of lens 2 plus power of lens 3 and so on, where p is the total power of the combination. Note number 2, some of the terms on the right hand side may be positive or may be negative. So in case of convex lenses, they will be positive, and in case of concave lenses, they are going to be negative, because focal length for a convex lens is positive and focal length for a concave lens is negative. So depending upon that, the terms on right hand side of the equation may be positive or may be negative. Okay. The third point is that the magnification, the total magnification of the combination. So the total magnification of the combination M, if the individual magnification of the lenses is M1, M2, M3 and so on, then the total magnification is given by M1 multiplied by M2 multiplied by M3 multiplied by M4 and so on. You have to just go on multiplying the magnifications. Okay, so the final magnification is going to be the product of the individual magnification of each of the lens. Okay, do not make the mistake of adding it. The reciprocal of focal lengths are to be added, the powers are to be added, but the magnifications are to be multiplied, okay, to get the final magnification. Okay, the magnification has to be multiplied. The fourth point is that such a system of combination of lenses is commonly used in designing the lenses for cameras. So it is used in such combination of lenses are used in designing the lenses of cameras. Okay, it is used in designing the lenses of microscopes, telescopes, okay, and other optical instruments. It is used in various optical instruments. Okay, and the fifth point is whenever there is a gap in between the two lenses, for example, the two lenses are not closely spaced, they are not very close to each other. Okay, when the two thin lenses having focal length f1 and f2 are placed at a distance of d, let's say one length and the other lens which is different, which is separated by a distance of d. This one has a focal length of f1, this one has a focal length of f2. Then the total focal length in such case will be given by 1 upon f is equal to 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2 upon f2 minus d upon f1 multiplied by f2, where d is the distance between the two lenses, okay, and in terms of power it is going to be P is equal to P1 plus P2 minus D times P1 multiplied by P2. This is going to be the expression in terms of power. So we'll stop here. This is it for today. We will continue with refraction in a prism in the next class.